Hi, this is Mary Ann Dybeck from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. We're sorry that Neil Grossman couldn't be with us here this evening to do our intros because I trip all over myself when I do those. If you want to get in on the conversation today, the phone number to reach us is 646-478-4905. We have attorney David Bartos with us this evening, and he's going to discuss child custody and child support issues. And we're just going to talk about people's cases, and maybe you'll call in and ask us a general question about your case, and David would be happy to answer that for you. So I want to say, Neil, I hope you're feeling better because he's out today because he hurt his foot. So we hope you're feeling better, and we send all our love to you. Sorry we have to do the show without you. I'm not sure how to do it without you, but we are going to try. I told David that we were going to start our show today by talking about a couple cases that I've been working on this week. One of them is very exciting. We're being interviewed by Scene Magazine tomorrow to comment on a custody case out of Cleveland's juvenile court system, wherein the father of the child has not had access to his child for over 2 years. And it's been quite the case. I hope you all check it out in Scene Magazine. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out, but it should be out this month. And it's a heart-wrenching story. The father likes to blame the court, but I kind of think it was, the mother's actions in this case kind of affected the way the courts reacted to it. And I know most people don't know much about juvenile court, but there is like a timeline, and his case was actually dismissed, and he had to open it again, which is very sad. So stay tuned for that in Scene Magazine coming up this month. Another thing I learned this week that I want to share with everybody is regarding emancipation with child support. If you have children on a child support order, and they turn 18 or they graduate from high school, whichever applies to their emancipation, you must be aware that if you still have children on that order, that you do need to go and modify that order. I would check with your child support enforcement agency a couple months before the emancipation is done. But if you do not ask for a modification, then your order is going to be the same order it was before. Say each child was given $400 a month and you take one child off. So CISA is not going to run the guidelines again, which means that you're going to get $800 a month with 3 children instead of the $1,200. So, but if you run the guidelines, it would probably be. Did I?
You started with 800.
I'm sorry.
How did it become 1,200?
Because I'm thinking 3 children. The actual case was 3 children, $400 per child, but the mother did not modify the order when the one child was emancipated. So there was a little bit of misunderstanding with the Child Support Enforcement Administration. Please do be aware.
You're saying he's continued to pay, or whoever was paying still had to pay $1,200 for 2 kids?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Let me clarify. Okay, 3 children, $400 apiece for each child. One child gets emancipated. So CISA, the way they look at it is they just take $400 off of the case. You're left with $800 for the 2 children. But that's not the way it should be. If you were to run the guidelines, that child support order would probably be a little bit higher. That you can't take the order and split it in 3.
Well, if you're paying child support, you don't necessarily want to have it raised.
Okay, I'm talking to the recipients.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I play both sides here.
All right. Well, I know you're you do a lot with the guys who usually have to pay.
I do. Right. You're correct. I do a lot with the guys that need to pay, but I also have the women who
contact you just so you know.
I do both.
If you're a recipient or
no biases here.
Okay. All right.
Right. It's very, very important that if you have a child that's being emancipated, that you do ask for a modification through CISA before the emancipation is final, or you will have to take it through court at that. Well, you could do it through CISA, but it's advisable, right, David, to do it through court.
CISA will only do it once every 3
Correct.
years, the modifications.
Unless there's a change in circumstances.
No, even that. I'll get into a story that I just heard this weekend over the 4th of July, and I'll get into that later. But As far as CISA goes, you can ask them to do it once every 3 years.
Correct.
Even
yes.
with a change of circumstances, they generally won't do it whenever you want them to. Once every 3 years.
I'm going to beg to differ with you on that one.
Again,
because when there's an
differ.
emancipation, so there's a change of circumstances. So they will do that because I spoke with them on the phone today. The thing is that you have to request it. It is a change of circumstances when a child is emancipated.
Right, I know, but
so
even if you can't do it again for another 3 years.
That is correct.
That's what I'm getting at.
And you're truly correct on that.
Okay.
Once you ask for a change of circumstances like that, and there is no change of circumstances, you can't do it through CISA for 3 years. That is absolutely correct. But they're changing a lot there nowadays, especially with all the unemployment going on. They've changed a lot of their internal policies, whereas they won't wait 6 months anymore to modify. Did you know this?
No, you know what? It's amazing.
I know.
It's amazing because we've had people that, were actually paying about $800 a month. They lose their job.
Right.
And, I'm sorry, we can't help you for 6 months.
Exactly. But they've changed their internal policy.
You're $5,000 behind.
Right. And
but they're not doing that now.
They are doing that. They're actually, that's what I'm so proud of, is they are doing that. They are looking at the unemployment statistics, and they are modifying through CISA instead of waiting for the 6 months. But that's such an important point to make is CISA, their policies change constantly. And, I talk with a lot of people at the Child Support Enforcement Administration, and there are some things that some enforcement officers will do and some things that some enforcement officers won't do.
Somebody should come up with like a booklet or something.
You think? I think we should do that.
Yeah. Well, we started when
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Right.
I think everything's changed.
And, I was reading ORC
I still want to do it. I still want to do that.
So do I,
booklet,
because I was reading the Ohio Revised Code, and I'm like, a lot of the stuff is in the code. And that's another thing I'd like to tell our listeners is, if you want to be educated about the legal system, there's a thing called the Ohio Revised Code, and it has wonderful information in it. Although you should call your attorney or some attorney that or an advocacy group to make sure that nothing's changed since you read that.
There's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo.
Yes, some of it is hard to understand, but for the most part, I think a lot of people can understand about 70% of the Ohio Revised Code if you spend some time looking at it.
Yes, but a little bit of information could do a lot more damage.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
Unless know the
if
whole
you're going to read
scheme.
the code, call an attorney and say, what does this code exactly mean? Because everything is subject to interpretation. Correct. You have to be very careful.
And there are a lot of attorneys out there that will give some information over the telephone. A lot of them still do give, like we do, we give a free initial consultation to say, sit down, what's your issue, what are you concerned about, and what can we do for you?
Speaking of free consultations, that's a really good thing that you have.
Right.
Yeah. So, why don't you just give your...
This is David Bartos. I'm an attorney at law in Cleveland, Ohio. Office is in Lakewood, Ohio. Address is 13363 Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. And our telephone number is 216-228-1166. That's 216-228-1166, and you can give us a call for a free consultation and ask us questions on a one-on-one basis. It's tough to answer questions over the internet or on the radio,
right,
because we can't get to the full facts. We don't have enough time to get to the full facts. So anything we say, there's always the slight variations in the story, something you can't get out or we don't know that we're giving advice, and it might necessarily not be that accurate to your particular situation. So before you act on anything we say here, please do contact a lawyer or verify what we're saying so we don't steer you in the wrong direction.
Absolutely, which is what I tell all of our members.
Time to tackle these greasy dishes. I'm going to need my biggest player. A change in the lineup.
One bottle of Ultra Dawn has the grease cleaning power of 2 of this competing brand.
Do we have some advertisers? That's
Dawn
fantastic.
I know.
So it's not a chore.
There we go.
Yeah, that happens at least once a show, but that's okay. What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, call David's office for a free consultation because that's really important. A lot of attorneys won't offer that service. And don't take for granted, do your homework. There's the internet, there's a whole bunch of research available to you. If you have a case, do as much research as you can on your own and then verify it with an attorney. So...
Well, the biggest thing you could do to help yourself in any situation, especially child support, you get inundated or tons of paperwork gets mailed to you. You don't know what to do with it. I've had clients, people come into my office, and they just have literally a garbage bag full of paperwork.
Right.
And they can't make heads or tails of it. And it takes like a good 20 minutes, half hour just to organize the paperwork so you can... I'm sure you have some wonderful stories.
I do. I have the greatest story for that.
You're chopping at the bit here. Okay, go ahead.
Because this was the greatest. Now, I've been doing this for 11 years, and I got a phone call a couple weeks ago from a guy who was in a panic because he had gotten a statement from the Child Support Enforcement Administration that said on the top, child support / spousal support. So he was in a panic thinking that they had redone his order and now he has to pay child support. So it could be something just, it could be something as simple as explaining to the client or member that it's not spousal support. That's just a generated form from the Child Support Enforcement Agency, but they make it very confusing. I don't mean to diss CISA here, but I was on their website this morning, and it's very hard to get through anything. I kept getting cut off on their website. I called their hotline. I kept getting cut off on their hotline. I know this is just
that.
Good thing I have friends who work there. Thank you. But I did try to go through the way that a normal client of child support would go.
Impossible.
It is terribly impossible.
Persistent.
I am not kidding you when I told you I called child support, the hotline, you know, the 443-5100, 7 times this morning, and I got cut off all 7 times. I was like, well, this is handy. It's very, very frustrating to deal with the Child Support Enforcement Agency, and it can be very confusing, all the paperwork. Yeah. Do you want to go back to your paperwork story? I just had to tell that story because...
Oh, no, I was just indicating that we have these clients that you just want to throttle them and shake them because they just walk in with this stack of paperwork, no rhyme or reason. You find, like...
And then it's not even in order.
Other bills, notices, you have it, stuff that just gets intermingled, and they shove it in the back of their car, and it's there for several months, and there's footprints all over it.
My favorite members, and this happens so rarely, maybe 1 out of every 200 members will come in with a nicely put together package of all of their information. More people should be more vigilant like that. One of the things I always tell our members is no matter what you do through the Child Support Enforcement Agency, keep a copy. Do not take it for granted that you send in this information and they're going to act on it.
Here's the other thing. Send it certified mail.
Ooh, that's good advice too.
Have them sign it, get the green card back, and so you know that they got it. Copies... Staple the green card to the letter, a copy of the letter saying this what was sent, this came back, that they received it, they should be acting on it or doing something, and that's very important. But
because most of our problems come from the lack of communication between the client and the Child Support Enforcement Agency.
CISA, they get something in the mail, it goes in the file. Doesn't matter what it is. If you're asking for a modification, it might get stuck in the file, and they don't even bother even looking at it. Just goes in the file.
It's very difficult.
Disappears. I think we're coming up on a break
here. Yeah, I think we got a 2-minute warning. But wow, we've talked for 11 minutes already.
How many timeouts have we used?
Just one. Okay. But we only get one for the whole show. Timeout? Yeah. So yeah.
Instant
Use
replay.
your time wisely.
Okay.
So yeah, the Child Support Enforcement Agency is a force to be reckoned with. It's constantly entertaining, constantly.
I did want to go back to that situation I wanted to talk about so one of my friends had an incident regarding that 6 months and not being able to file.
Okay, great.
So I think we could do that when we come back from our break. I think we should be winding down here. But very interesting stuff. He actually got a criminal charge for non-support.
I am not surprised.
And when I told him what he could do, his eyes just widened, said...
And what, pray say?
A lot of swear words came out of his mouth.
Really?
Yes.
What'd you tell him he could do? I guess we'll save that for after the break.
Sounds good.
So, Mr. Producer.
Jonathan, Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. I support shared parenting from experience. Sometimes divorce is inevitable, but done the right way, more children like myself can be saved the misery of being hit by the shrapnel of their parents' disputes. Kids don't need money to be happy. We don't need a big house or a Mercedes. What we do need is unconditional love from both parents. no matter if we live in the same house or not. We need to feel loved and safe. Yes, all you parents, it's as easy as that. The Children's Rights Council of Cleveland offers many services to parents who are experiencing legal and emotional issues while trying to get shared parenting agreements in place. Some of the services offered are an education understanding of legal processes, including, but not limited to, your rights, responsibilities, and laws that apply to child support and child custody. Motion review. Attorneys are paid directly from our clients to review motions needed for court. The staff at CRC does not recommend that anyone file a motion without an attorney opinion and review of the case. Court companionship. CRC's director or a staff member can accompany you to court to make the experience less stressful to both the client and opposition. Supervised visitation. If the court orders you to do supervised visits, CRC has a facility that fosters parent and child relations, including board games, miscellaneous toys and arts and craft, and finally, all the kids' favorite game, the Wii. We also offer free legal clinics, and of course you already know about our radio show. To reach CRC's office, please call 216-227-9111. See what we can do to help you. Think about what I said, parents. And you lawyers out there, too, who like to drag out these battles, remember the children. This is Jonathan, representing the child's best interest from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. Peace, Cleveland.
Hi, this is Marianne Dybeck from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. We're child support, child custody advocates. We're live the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. on kazradio.org, or you can listen on demand anytime by logging on to kazradio.org. Welcome back. I can't get used to the music bringing us in.
It'll come to you.
Hi, yeah, miss you, Neil. You'd be good at bringing us back in. Welcome back to the Children's Rights Council radio show with our guest, Dave Bartos. If you want in on the conversation today, please take advantage of this. It's really hard to get an attorney to sit down and talk with you. The phone number here is 1-646-478-4905. David?
Is that 646 area code, is that a free call or is that like a long distance?
Producer? It's long distance.
Okay.
But most of us have long distance on our cell phones. So.
Oh, that's true.
But we don't understand why. I mean, anyway, we're back to your story.
Well, again, my name is David Bartos. I'm an attorney at law for Bartos and Rini. I have an office in Lakewood, Ohio. It's 13363 Madison Avenue. That's in Lakewood. Telephone number there is 216-228.
Good business is when everybody knows about your...
Sorry about that. 216-228-1166. And I did promise my daughters I'd say hi to them on
and they are so cute,
Hi,
too.
girls.
How old are the girls?
Hi.
How old are they now?
They are 6 and 4.
No way.
Mary is turning 5 here shortly on the 12th.
They're so
and they
cute.
should be going to bed soon. So good night, girls. Love you guys. So.
Yeah, Dave's a wonderful father. You guys are the cutest little girls. But anyway, David and his associates come highly recommended from our office. David, I've known you for years and years and years. I love the people that you work with, Denise and Janine. They're just wonderful. Very good law firm. Very good.
Well, thank you.
So back to your story.
So anyway, no, I'm sitting there talking with a guy, and he's like, oh, you're an attorney, and he's a friend of my brother's. Of course, I'm not going to say his name on the radio.
Of course not.
He was talking about his child support order and that he was working, making decent money, making pretty good money, and he had a child support order and he was paying, I think he said around $650. It's quite a big order. And
$650 for one?
I think it was 2 children.
For 2 children?
2 children. So, he wound up losing his job, and he went to CISA, and they said, sorry, we don't do modifications for 6 months.
Right.
And so he said okay and sat and didn't pay his child support because he didn't have the funds. Sat some more. So 6 months. 6 months go by. Calls him up. Sends in the paperwork. A couple 3-4 months later. It's probably in process. It'll we're probably getting to it. After another 6 months, he's like, what's going on? Well, we lost your paperwork. Could you send it in again?
Common statement.
So, guess what?
What?
They decided that because the order was so high, by then he had gone into arrears.
Over $5,000?
12 times $650. My mind swims. So, like $13,000.
Wow.
That's about right. But,
and that then becomes a...
Well, it became a felony non-support. You don't pay your child support, they could come after you.
Which is very, very serious.
So I think he wound up doing 30 days.
Who was the judge? Put him in jail?
I'm not going to...
Wait, was it Cleveland?
Oh, it was Cuyahoga.
Juvenile court?
Cuyahoga County.
Juvenile court?
Maybe.
Because we all know who puts everybody in jail for nonsense. But it couldn't have been because he went criminal.
Actually, you know what? It was Lorain. It was Lorain County. I apologize.
And criminal, correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't possibly know everything. But when you're in criminal non-support, because I've seen a lot of show causes in juvenile court, but it's the criminal non-support that I really don't know anything about, because don't they go to a different court?
Well, they go to common pleas, adult division, criminal. It has nothing.
So it's totally different from your show cause, which is not in the felony status.
Correct.
Yeah. See, I've never even been to a hearing for criminal non-support.
Okay. Well, for those of you out there, the motion to show cause basically says this: that you've had an order. You had an order to pay child support. For some reason, you're either not paying or you got behind. They're pulling you into court to ask you, you know what? You were ordered by the court. You're supposed to pay attention to the court.
Right.
Why aren't you paying attention to the court and doing what we told you to do, which is the child support?
Right.
So they drag you in, and usually the responses are this: I'm unemployed, I can't find a job. I'm ill, and I can't find a job. I'm ill, I can't work, are usually the main reasons why people don't pay their child support. It's very rare that people are working that don't pay their child support, because it usually comes out of their paychecks.
Right.
That's a different story about whether they can take out enough, but they get behind. Okay, the court will find them in contempt of court, pretty much regardless of why they're behind. They're sentenced to 30 days in jail. They don't send them to jail right away. Now, the 30 days in jail isn't because it's criminal. They're saying you are disobeying the court, which is thus the violation of court order.
Correct.
So they're saying you're not paying the support that we ordered you to do. We're sentencing you to jail for contempt is basically what it is. Contempt of court for not paying.
Right.
We're not going to send you to jail right now. However, let's say somebody's $10,000 in arrears. Usually what they'll do is say you have to pay 10% of what you owe within 90, 120 days. If you pay 10%, they wipe the jail sentence off, and you've pretty much purged your jail sentence. You purge the contempt like it's gone.
Right.
The next time, if you get behind.
Or they keep track?
Well, sometimes.
I thought if you purge it, you're good, But they'll look at it and say this is your second.
They'll bring you in
contempt.
and say this is your second contempt, and it goes up 30 days each time.
Wow.
So the first time you're found in contempt, it's 30 days. Second time, 60. Third time, 90. And usually when you get to the fourth, there's different ways you get to the criminal non-support. Usually if you've been found in contempt of court more than 3 times, that's when they'll file a criminal charge. Or in the alternative, if you haven't paid for a long period of time, they can go straight to the criminal. Usually that's not how it works, just because there's still so many people. But the criminal aspect is it's a criminal charge. You go down to the main court in Cuyahoga Common Pleas down at the Justice Center, and you go there and you go through the arraignment and then a pre-trial and a trial if necessary.
That is so scary.
But yeah, that carries with it, I believe, 6 months to 18 months.
Wow.
You can go for. And on probation.
Yeah, so pay attention to your orders, guys. Okay, is there any suggestions on remedies so gentlemen can't get into, if they get into the position where they can't pay their child support order, what would be your advice to them? Should they go straight to CISO, or maybe could they go file directly in court? What would you suggest?
Generally, if it's not a large order, well, put it this way. If you have the money, hire yourself a lawyer, file it directly with the court.
Because that's advantageous, because...
The advantage of that is the child support gets filed, and it can be retroactively modified to the date you file.
Right.
So if you, let's say somebody filed...
That's pretty
right,
important.
Say somebody filed it today.
Yes.
And your first court date isn't for 3 months or 2 months.
Right.
And then a pretrial after that's 2 months. And so you finally get back into court, and they say, okay, yeah, your child support is modified to, $100 less. They'll go back to the date that you filed it, which would be today, and for all the months that they've been accumulating arrearages because it was a higher amount, they'll go back and change it all and recalculate the support from the date you filed.
So I hope all you payors are paying attention, because this is critical information.
So as far as going to CISA, we just went through some of the problems that you might have with CISA,
big problems with
whether
CISA.
they lose the information. And I'm saying not all of them. It doesn't get lost all the time. It doesn't get lost a majority of the times, but
they do
I
get
don't.
Lost.
Sometimes they do get lost, and I don't want to take that risk.
Right.
If they're coming down and they're going to bring me into court and say we're putting jail time on you.
And not only that is, again, the date of filing, the retroactive, is not applicable for child support.
From when you send it in, they will do a review.
Right, but
CISA will do a review.
Okay, it's not retroactive to when they file a modification through CISA. But okay, say that they file a modification through CISA. Will CISA still file contempt charges against them if they have a modification pending? Do you know that?
Generally,
Can
no.
they get in trouble?
Generally, no.
So they can stay out of trouble, but they're still going to accumulate the payments because it's not retroactive to the date of filing with a modification through CISA.
Correct.
So it's extremely advantageous to go through court to get your modification.
Correct.
I agree to that on so many different levels.
And I believe, I don't know if they still have it on there. I know juvenile court had like a mock motion, like a fill-in-the-blank motion.
Juvenile court is actually posted a lot of new motions. If you go to the juvenile court website.
Well, that's my motion.
Is that your motion?
I prepared that for them.
Yeah, they have like 5 or 6 new motions that a pro se litigants can actually. But again, these motions are available to you, but it doesn't mean you know everything. I've seen so many pro se motions get dismissed on a technicality. Even if you want to go pro se, please call our offices and get some coaching from a lawyer before you file your motions pro se. It's not as easy as it looks. Being a lawyer, being an advocate is very hard work. And the laws change every day. So if you're going to file pro se motions, great, but check with an attorney to make sure that you're filing the correct motions. There are certain motions that need other things to be filed with them. You need to know about how to perfect service. It's a very complicated process. Please check with our offices or call your attorneys to do that.
Yeah, because I know you've done a very good job with a lot of the people that I've come in contact with.
Thank you.
So they really are thankful. But I do want to send out a good job too. There's a clerk down at juvenile court. Name's Ann Barishon.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Ann Purdy. Now it's Ann Purdy.
She's the head lady, right?
Right.
She is so wonderful. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah,
she's done a great job down there.
She's helped us. She's helped our attorneys that go in. She's the greatest.
When I was a prosecutor for CISA way back in the day, about
I didn't know.
About 10 years ago. Yeah. About 10 years ago. And the clerk's office, it was not as good as it is today.
Yeah.
They've done such a good job with increasing organization down there to be able to organize and do that. Things are done a lot quicker.
The only thing I don't like is when you go file a complaint. Do they make you do this? Because you're a lawyer. When you file a complaint, they make you wait 20 minutes now to get a case number. Do they make you do that?
They don't necessarily make us wait, because usually we call.
You can call and get the case number.
Yeah, we'll call and get the case number. But ever since they made all the changes and the cutbacks, it's been a lot more difficult to actually get a hold of the clerk's office.
Wow.
That the phones have been ringing a little bit. At least we've had this experience where it rings and rings and rings and rings and nobody picks up. So you wind up hanging up and calling again. But
again, playing with the system.
But it's still a lot better than what it was with the clerk's office. But yeah, so that's sped up quite a bit.
So we educated our listeners a lot on the child support system today. Producer, how much time we have left?
Yep, we didn't necessarily.
We have no time left.
Didn't necessarily get to anything with custody, but we
with
deal that too. We deal with that too.
David Bartos does custody.
216-228-5228. 1166.
Give them a call or call our offices, Children's Rights Council at 216-227-9111. Good night, Cleveland.
Have a good night.